Oh, yes. I'm uh, I'm thinking about these prisons, yes, and juvenile detention centers, yes. you know, uh, Considering the technology, the employee could have the actual lizard or the fish twin look-alike, the dog at their residence, yes. And they change places. And could you get me the actual commuter vans of every transit system of the United States? Pooch. I'd just like to know, Clallam Transit System. Ouch! You didn't allow for any van usage, considering it's subsidized by the federal government and the state governments. Yes. It's so important for those that are commuters, to conserve fuel. Yes. Now, you wouldn't want to have an overheating today. But the law does actually say that while employed, if you find out about domestic violence or child abuse, you have an obligation to inform the authorities. Yes, he does. But I'm looking for who it is that's sewn into the grid, because I've seen some of these prisons that were closed. Yeah. Persons were told they can't go near them. I personally wanted to buy them. I thought I'd fix them up for sheriffs and police officers. Now, I told you it was against the law to issue a court order where there were no parties there, rule number one. Yes. And then the use of forgeries? Yes. But now I'm going through the last 60 years of employees of every juvenile detention center and every prison in the United States. I'm looking at their actual location that they resided at, and if they decided to sew in or twin themselves so that when they got to work they could be abusive to inmates. Ouch! Ouch! Now, I do have the legal right to sue every superintendent of every prison of the United States, for allowing for the wrongful execution of court orders where you didn't protect the due process rights of the respondent. You haven't protected my sons from domestic violence because, as I said yesterday, yes, when you sat on it for 6 fucking days, I don't think you think these laws are serious. Now, there's Shelton. Oh my gosh. Exactly who was it that sewed the grid in for those inmates that were sentenced to prison after having sat at a superior court hearing? I heard the family has this way of doing things where they get you for something. Yes. Spend a little time in prison when you're young, maybe a year or two. Yes. And then from then on, if you don't do what they say, they remind you, well, we could always put you back in prison. Pooch. And then there's that three-strike rule. Oh. Now, wouldn't it be a frustrating thing to imprison me for violating a protection order where the petitioner where I was not given notice and opportunity, where there's forgeries and contempt of court, fraud and conspiracy. Pooh-wee. And then get so angry that you're just not going to remove it. You're not going to remove the dissolution of marriage that happened to violate the UCCJEA. Pooch. You're not going to remove the protection order. And I looked online last night and I didn't see that I was on the docket, but I thought they were updating the court website. Yes. In fact, why don't you give me all the actual sentencing of every individual that was found guilty of a felony? Yes. More than a year? Yes, yes, yes. For the last 40 years, I'd like to know each and every inmate of every prison and where they at. Did you sew them in? See, there's a certain way to get along in prison. You could go the way of the witch way. Ooch. I'd known a few of those in jail. In fact, there was one guy. Ooch, it was amazing. Did you know they can search your actual rectum for any sort of contraband? Yes, you have to open your mouth so they can look in there, see if you got anything in there. But he made an incision in his fupa. Pooch. It's that fat above the genitals. Yes. For some reason, that's not considered one of the places that you can search. Oh, oh, oh. Now, I know there's a lot of convicts upset today that prison guards are going to prison. Ouch! Oops. Exactly which side are you on? Oh, I thought that he was one of those in the family because I had talked to a few inmates when I was in jail on Guam. Yes, for 10 days. And you issued a protection order where I was not able to respond and I wasn't a resident, and then you served me while on Guam. And Guam didn't realize that I have rights as a father to have notice and opportunity before giving custody of my sons to any individual. I did 7 hours of parenting classes. I actually spent too much time on Guam. In jail, that is. Pooh! See, if I had had a residence, I could have got out the day after arraignment on personal recognizance. Yes, but I had to go to court multiple times. Hey, gee. I'm sure the public defender's office, Richard Dirks, ouch, Ali Nosbaum, poo-poo. You know, when I start to add up the criminality of refusing to enforce the actual laws of the United States, yes, then getting arrested for illegal protection orders where there is no petitioner signature and I wasn't given any due process. I'm kind of thinking that a lot of prisons are getting sued today, and quite possibly juvenile detention centers. Yes. Now just give me the commute times of all those employees, and then every conviction of every individual, and then how many of them, when they got to prison, they said, "What's this now?" If you have a little friend, you're the friend of those that are guards. Something about running through. Wow!